my name is Isaac I am the head of advisory and research with ZanSecurities. ZanSecurities is a capital market investment firm. We are licensed by the Capital Markets and Securities Authority, CMSA. Part of our works that we do, we enable people to buy and sell shares and other securities that are listed on the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, of course, including treasury bonds, corporate bonds, mutual funds, etc. But we also do investment advisory for companies that are looking to raise capital. So this could be small, medium enterprises, large enterprises that need to fund the expansion. So they could either do that by issuing IPOs, initial public offerings, or by issuing debt securities. But the third thing that we also do, we are a fund manager. So we are licensed as a fund manager to manage funds on behalf of our clients, particularly in the capital markets in Tanzania. So we've been in the market for more than, I think now we're heading towards our 16th year, because we were incorporated in 2009. We were one of the largest stock brokerage firms in Tanzania, and we have presence in both Zanzibar, Tanzania mainland, and we also have other counterparties that we work with very closely in Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, Mauritius. Yeah, and throughout the years, we've really noticed growth in investment, particularly in the number of people that are joining in the market, number of securities that are being issued in the market. So there's been huge growth, and growth most of the times in the capital markets is being complemented by the economic growth of the country. So Tanzania has been, to be honest, a very special case in Africa. It's grown very fast. And even when other countries were struggling in terms of, during COVID and other recessionary periods, Tanzania has been, far from its peers in terms of growth. So just to put it that way, we are really very much focused in promoting investments in Tanzania, specifically in the capital markets.
Hey everyone, mambo vipi? Hope you guys mko poa. As you heard today with Isaac from ZanSecurities. Matter of fact, they are the sponsor of this episode. So we're gonna be learning kuhusiana na stocks. Mambo vipi, Isaac?
Safi, how are you doing?
Not bad. All good?
All's good. Good to be here.
Before we get into stocks, on your introduction, I got a question there. Mboko naongelea Tanzania, kuhusiana na being one of the extraordinary countries in Africa in terms of development and growth. I mean, my question lies kwenye the fact kwamba, there are a lot of people complaining the life standard is getting worse, but the papers show kwamba development is going high. Like, what's the reason to that? What's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, I think there are very, many things that we can look at, but specifically when you look at the capital markets are growing very, very fast. And when I say the capital markets, I mean companies that are listed on the stock exchange, securities that are being issued. You can see that, just to give an example this year, the domestic market capitalization of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange from January to May has expanded by more than 1 trillion. So what does this mean? This means that the local companies that are listed, so you talk about CRDB, NMB, Trigger Cement, the value of all these companies from January to May has grown by more than 1 trillion. Why has it grown? Because the prices have appreciated, people are buying more. So when people are buying more, it makes even the price to go higher. Yeah. So you can try to rationalize, why would people buy more? People are buying more because these businesses are doing good. The banking sector is doing well. Non-performing loans are very low. Profitability in the banking sector has been extremely high in the past 5 years. So when you look at even construction, there's been a huge construction boom in Tanzania. So it complements other sectors as well. It complements logistics, it complements manufacturing, it complements banking. So that's the reason why we're seeing there's been lots and lots of growth in Tanzania. So I'm not really sure about the lifestyle, but from where I am standing, I see that there's been, incredible growth. Even during periods that other countries have been struggling, our neighbors went through some instability last year, people are rioting. But when you look at Tanzania, we've been very, very peaceful. And in terms of development, we've really done an incredible job so far.
I would just give you my point of view, and you can just tell me from your experience. from how I see ni kwamba the development is there kwa sababu capital markets is easily accessible na watu ambao ni either middle class au high end. Kwa hiyo unakuta wao ndo wananufaika na the development, but the lower standard people ambao yeye anapambania chakula chake cha leo na kesho, ni ngumu sana yeye kupata manufaa kupitiana na capital markets au the development in these higher sectors. Do you think that might be the reason behind?
I think when you talk about accessibility, maybe we have to go back to around 2020, 2019.
Okay.
You see that there's been lots of efforts being put in making basic services accessible to people even in remote areas. So when you talk about banking services, people now can do banking through their mobile phones. When you talk about health services, there are many hospitals that now are accessible even in areas that were not accessible before. So coming back to the capital markets, people have the ability of even buying shares through the mobile phone. So that has eliminated that information asymmetry gap, because between the middle income, the high earning people, and the low earning people. So even people who do not have enough, they still have that ability of even learning about the things that they were unable to learn about before. So he may bridge the gap in information asymmetry. So now we're actually seeing more people are investing. So when you look at even the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, there are, I think, more than 700,000 investors now. People are actively investing. As I mentioned, the capitalization has grown bigger. So I think when we go deeper into the conversation, I'll even give you facts about what companies have done well and how has it even benefited people as well. So this is not, I like to use the word that investing is not privilege for a few people. It's a right for everyone. Whether you are in a very remote area, whether you're in town, whether you're educated, whether you're not educated, everyone needs to have that ability to invest and get those rewards of investing. So it's not a right for few people. It should be a right for everybody else. Yes.
You said there are almost 7 billion people right now in the stock market, isn't it?
700,000 active
700,000,
CDS
sorry.
accounts in the stock exchange. So people are actively buying and selling, and it actually makes even the stock exchange grow. So we're seeing that right now. You can even look at some of the companies, prices have appreciated very significantly in just a period of 5 months. That has been contributed by the number of people that are investing in the market. Yeah, because when you go back a few years ago, the number was very, very small. So when you have a very limited number of investors, even investment options are going to be fewer. So I, as a capital market intermediary, as a stockbroker, I'm not really going to be incentivized to bring products if investors are few. But because investors now are growing, the number is increasing, even we need to scratch our heads on how we could bring more services to them, bring more products, because now there's talks of people, they want to have index funds, they want to have ETFs, they want to have commodity ETFs. They just don't want to invest in the traditional stocks. You understand?
Yeah.
So I think all of this is going to create huge developments in the market in the coming years.
Yesterday you told me that there are a lot of people in Tanzania are not investing, and I just wanted to know the rough estimate from the 700 million people in the market. How many are foreigners? How many are locals? If you have the stats.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look right now, there's an increasing number of local investors. And how can you know this? Good thing is information is available every day. So when you go to the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange website, dsc.co.tz, there's a report section where you can access the daily reports. So when you access the daily reports, there's a line that says percentage of foreign and local investors. And most of the times, the net buyers are local investors. Most of the times, the net buyers are local investors. So that shows you that there's been an increasing trend of local participation in the capital markets, which is also a good sign, because we want to promote local participation, because it's not really going to make a lot of sense if we are saying that the market is doing good, but the ones who are benefiting are foreigners. Also, you want people that should benefit are the ones that are within the country, are the ones that have the local companies here to be able to benefit first, and then maybe foreigners come and benefit later. Yeah, so in terms of the numbers, I can almost say to a great degree of certainty that the majority of buyers are local investors.
Are locals.
Yes, so participation has been very, very huge.
Right now, Tanzania, lately actually, wamepitisha hiyo sheria kwamba every local transaction needs to be done in T shillings. Would that also, compared, ukisema with the foreigners, I assume that walikuwa wananunua na currency zao. So with this change, would it means kwamba hata wakinunua, it would actually improve our currency growth and all that?
Of course. So let me talk about two things. So let me talk about the current modality of buying securities in Tanzania in the capital market. So all deals are done through the local currency. So if you want to buy any stock through the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, you use TZS. So you fund our account and we purchase that on your behalf through the local currency. And that goes for both foreigners and local investors. Yeah, so whether you're buying equities, whether you're buying bonds, so you use the local currency. So if you're a foreigner, maybe you're based in another country, when you want to invest in Tanzania, you open a custody account. And then if you bring your dollars, obviously you have to change those dollars into TZS. Then you buy your securities. Maybe in later time, you want to exit the market. And then you get paid, once you sell your shares, you get paid the TZS equivalent of what you sold. Then you need to now to buy the foreign currency and then you can exit the market. Yeah. But on the other side, I feel that this is a very good change because what's going to happen is it's going to strengthen the local currency. And it's going to make it much more easier for people to do transactions in the market because you don't want to have a situation where the local currency is weak. So you want to strengthen the local currency. So I think that is a bold step in the right direction, in terms of trying to strengthen the local currency. Yeah.
So, okay, let's speak about the stock market then. I mean, I'm curious to know, like, what would you say is a unique advantage ambayo the stock market ina offer compared with other assets? Kwa mfano, investing in real estate, au biashara and all that.
I mean, that's a very, very good question.
Yeah.
Number one, when you talk about the stock exchange, you need to understand the stock exchange is a marketplace just like any other market.
Yeah.
The only difference is it's a centralized market. So the intermediaries, like the brokers, they're licensed. So there is a formal process on how you could buy securities, or when you sell, there's a formalized process on how proceeds are getting deposited into your account, just to sort of make sure that there is no element of fraud activities or there's no element of people being, okay, I sold my shares, ownership should be transferred.
Yeah.
Unajua sometimes unakuwa unauza gari, mtu anakutapeli anasema bwana nimebadilisha jina kumbe hajabadilisha jina. Au umenunua nyumba, labda the title deed ina issues, ina mgogoro. Umeona, maybe kwa sababu there is no centralization of a marketplace for that. So benefit number one, when you look at the stock exchange or the stock market in general, it's a centralized marketplace. So it promotes price discovery. What do I mean by saying price discovery? So if you want to buy a share right now, if you want to buy a stock right now through the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, you can do that through the mobile phone. And you don't even need to call someone to ask him what is the price of that share. Everything is very open in the application. So you know who are selling at what price and who are buying at what price. And then you can weigh, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to buy? Do you want to sell? So you can actually see where the market price is. So when you go to other investments or other areas such as real estate, price discovery is a challenge because most of the times maybe you want to sell your house. Who do you go to? You go to an agent. An agent, they want to maximize the commission as well. Yeah. So you never know, maybe they're not going to give you the best deal. But if there was a centralized place on where you could actually sell your property, it will be much, much more easier. But again, I think another thing to also note is liquidity. Liquidity is the easiness of buying and selling. So literally today, you can even buy shares worth of 2 billion if they're available in the market, and that transaction will be done in one day. But if you want to buy an asset of 2 billion, say maybe a property, I believe there's going to be so much hurdles into being able to do that transaction. Yeah, you need to pay municipality taxes, you need to do this, you need to pay levies, you need to hire a lawyer to be able to draft up the contracts
and all
that. So the administration task of being able to buy and sell those shares imepunguzwa kwa sababu it's centralized in the market. Yeah, but another thing to also note in terms of the divisibility of the securities, you bought shares worth 1 million. And then maybe after 6 months, ukamua nataka 200,000 out of the 1 million. Yani 800,000 baki, nichukue 200,000.
Yeah.
You can sell a portion of that. So it's very much divisible. Yeah. But you have a house today, 200 million worth house. Huwezi kusema kama nataka niuze chumba hichi.
Huwezi.
Huwezi kusema nataka niuze chumba cha milioni 40 nibaki na milioni 160. Huwezi. So you need to sell the whole house. So, investing in the stock market creates easiness kwa sababu, these securities are very much fungible and they're divisible. But also another thing, when you compare specifically with real estate, I think the administration or the maintenance that goes into managing a property is significantly higher compared to just buying a security. So if you buy a bond, you're guaranteed to get 15% every year. You don't need to have any arguments with any tenant. You don't need to argue with anyone because this is your money that is going to your account. So there's flexibility on that end when investing in the stock market compared to other asset classes.
So kuna statement umesema hapo kwamba if that amount of stock is available in the market, and also umesema kwamba you can access anytime.
Yes.
So does it mean kwamba kuna limit, labda kwa mfano mimi na milioni 200 sasa hivi, but in the market labda stock za CRDB hazifiki hizo hela?
Of course. So I think one thing everyone has to keep in mind, yani mambo ya stocks, it's like you're in the market. So in any market, the buyers and the sellers. These are people. These are human beings. So sometimes you might decide you want to buy shares of milioni 200 za CRDB, but are there people to sell you that? So that is where our role comes in as brokers. So our role as brokers is to ensure that we maintain and create a market for these securities, right? So if you want to buy, but at that moment in the market, labda hamna hizo shares ambazo unaweza kununua, we can call a few people that we know that they might have more than what you have, lakini sasa maybe hawakuweka sokoni to show the intention that they wanted to sell. So we give people a few phone calls and we ask them, we have a bid, there's someone that wants to buy 200 million worth of certain shares, certain security. Do you think that with this price you'll be willing to sell? Yeah. So it's not that there is an endless supply of these shares. Shares, they're just people ambao wameweka investment, and sometimes they're offering to sell, some people are bidding to buy. So sometimes if they're not available in real time, we can give out a few phone calls to ask, if there is anyone ambao is willing to sell at any price that they're ready to accept that offer. Yeah, so again, in terms of limit, maybe let me just speak about maybe the minimum. So in terms of the minimum amount that a person can buy is just 10 shares. So if a company's market price or share price is 500 shillings and you want to buy the minimum, you pay 5,000, 500 times 10. Of course, there are other trading charges that you include, but they're very, very minimum. So it's basically 5,000. But in terms of the highest amount, you can buy, whatever is available in the market.
The whole company.
Yeah. So, those are the nitty-gritties of how the market.
Okay, so so inamaanisha kwa mfano mimi kama hivyo.
Yes.
Nimenunua shares 5,000. After like 2 weeks nikiuza. Does it mean kwamba I'll have to wait for someone to want to buy them, or I can just throw them off me along naipata?
So that is a very good question. So the mechanism of how the market works is number one, it's a centralized market. So there are systems. And then kwenye system, there's something that we call the order book. The order book basically shows for a specific security, let's say company X, order book of company X, there are people on both, they're bidding to buy and there are people that are offering to sell that security. So for companies that maybe are not doing well, you're going to see your order book imekaa upande mmoja ya watu ambao wanauza. Lakini upande wa kununua hamna, au kama wapo ni wachache. Au kama wapo na ni wachache, bei yao ni mbaya, ni tofauti.
Can you bid a price ambao unataka kununua? Yes. Through the application?
You could decide within the market limits. Obviously there are limits in terms of price that you cannot, kwa sababu kwa mfano kama share price ya kampuni fulani ni 500, there is limit on how much you can bid above the market price or below the market price. So I don't want to get into technicalities, but there's a ceiling of 10% and there's a floor of 10%. So if it's 500, you cannot bid beyond 550, and you cannot try and offer below, maybe let's say 450. Yes, so there's a ceiling and there's a floor. Obviously there are much more details into that because kuna issues are market capitalization. Kwa kampuni ambazo market cap is more than 1 trillion, that ceiling and floor is more diminished, to 5%. But for below than 1 trillion, it's 10%. So there's that. So back to your question about if you can put your own price, you can put your own price because you're a buyer or you're a seller. you should be flexible to say whatever price you want. You should not be coerced into selling at a price that you don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah, so as I was saying, there's an order book where you can see all the bids. Kuna lines kabisa kwamba kuna bid hii mtu ananunua bei ya 500, mwingine ananunua 540, mwingine 520. Sasa wewe you can decide, do you want to sell immediately? If you want to sell immediately, you look at who's buying. If you want to sell immediately, you look at the bids of the people that are buying, right? Kama ukaona bid mtu anataka kununua maybe share 5,000 kwa bei ya shilingi 500, then you can offer to sell. So your bid matches. So all of these things you can actually see in real time and know that, okay, if I want to buy, I can buy at this price. Or if I can put in my own price, ili baadaye wale ambao wanauza wanifuate ili waweze kumatch bei yangu mimi. Yes. So it's basically like an auction fulani.
Yani kwa jinsi ulivyoelezea hapo ni sasa na how people who do forex. But this is on stocks.
This is on stocks.
Okay.
Yes.
But I want to know kwa nini forex ambayo ni ya currency ndo ni more popular au common than stock trading kama hivyo, au hamna lucrativity au ile liquidity ni tofauti?
I think liquidity ipo. I think ni issue tu ya uelewa wa watu. Na nadhani tu is the perception that has been put in the market in terms of returns that you can get from the forex vis-a-vis the return that you can get in the stock market. Unajua, when you invest in the stock market, you're buying a company. You're buying an existing business which has fundamentals. You can analyze it. You can predict the future to a certain extent if everything else remains constant. Yeah, but when you go to the forex market, I mean, obviously there are those factors that you can actually attribute to. But I think there's more volatility there, and the level of prediction is much more not certain compared to the stock market. You know, when you look at the stock market in Tanzania, there's been significant growth as far as the companies that have been listed. Yani makampuni ambayo yamekuwa listed yameregistered growth kubwa mno. This year alone, companies like Trigger Cement from January to May, they've already returned 30% on account of the price increase.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's very, very significant. Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
It's a lot. So the reason why the more people in the forex, it could be two things. Number one is the perception of forex maybe is much more lucrative. Lakini pia information concerning the stock market maybe is very limited. Kwa hiyo mtu ana information ya upande mmoja tu, ndio maana sasa hawezi akaja kwenye market huu upande wa stock market. So I think maybe that is where the challenge is. But as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing that there's a huge growth in terms of investors that are coming into the stock market because, you know, companies are doing good, numbers are well, the economy is doing great, the market is growing, prices are going up. So I think when you have a mix of all of these things, it's it creates a perfect condition for the market ecosystem to grow and to even flourish much more. Yes.
From your experience, I'd like to know, would you advise someone afanye stock trading au achukue anunue stock or hold with much factors than kununua sasa hivi kusubiri labda wiki moja uza?
Yeah.
What's your advice on that?
You know, when you look at the stock market, as I said, you're buying a business.
Exactly.
Do you want to buy a business today and sell it tomorrow?
No.
The reason why you buy a business is so you can reap the benefits of that business. You buy a business sababu you see in potential ya profitability
in the long run.
In the long run. So this company, we assume it's going to grow, itakuwa na profit kubwa. Ikiwa na profit kubwa, what's going to happen? So they might decide to use ile profit kukurudishia wewe kama shareholder in the form of dividend. Sasa the more the dividend goes higher, the more hata demand ya hiyo kampuni inakuwa ni kubwa, which makes the share price go higher. So I've just mentioned two benefits of owning a stock without even wanting to. So kuna hiyo dividend, mtu ananunua ili aje kulipa magawio, lakini ya pili ni hiyo capital appreciation. So I bought today, the price was 500. In a year, because the company is doing good, prospects of profitability are well, price might even appreciate to 700. So those are benefits that can come about when someone invests in a business for the long run. I like saying, as an investor, you need to know what you're buying and why you're buying. Lakini mara nyingi, people just buy, they don't even know what they're buying.
Emotions.
They're just buying emotionally. Sasa ndo mambo ya kutrade. Kwamba I'm buying, I'm selling. I'm buying, I'm selling. Lakini sasa, historically, you can actually make more gains from buying and holding rather than buying and selling. Nikupe tu mfano. There's a company kama CRDB listed in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Price of CRDB in around January 2020, it was 95 shillings per share. 95 shillings per share. So there was a banking boom cycle toka that period till now, and this was due to economic policies of open business. So there was a lot of foreign direct investments coming inside the country. Demand for loans was huge. People were saving much more money. So there was a lot of liquidity being pumped into the banking sector, which made banks to boom. So as a result of that, you see banks' profitability going up. So I was giving an example. In January of 2020, price of CIDB was 95. So let's assume that there are two people. There's a trader and there's a buy to hold. Huyo trader amenunua 95, akasubiri miezi miwili mitatu, bei kapanda mpaka 120, akauza. Akatafuta opportunity nyingine. Lakini huyu mtu mwingine ambaye alinunua price was 95 in 2020, akaishikilia. Ameshikilia, amekaa nayo mpaka 2025 May, where the price now is 860. From 95 to 860. That is like 9 times.
Almost 9 times.
9 times,
sure,
yeah. So you bought 95 million worth of shares that time. Now you're sitting on 860. And I haven't even begun talking about dividends. Sianza tukuelezea magawio. Kwa sababu magawio ambayo amekuwa amelipwa umeona yameongezeka. So it went from 17 shillings, 22, 36, 45, 50, and now this year is 65.
Haijai kurudi nyuma.
Yani from that period it just keeps on going up. So unakuta mtu aliyenunua 95 shillings mwaka huu analipwa 65 shillings just dividend. That is a huge return on investment. Sasa if I was to ask you the same question, is it better to be a trader or to buy?
Yeah. I mean,
you get the logic, right?
From what you said, you just say the difference kati ya stocks na forex. Na pia you just stated kwa nini people are more lean into forex kwa sababu most of us, we don't want to wait for 20, 30 years for our money to grow. We just want to see our money tomorrow. We want to be rich tomorrow, So like, it's more like a get quick scheme, watu wanaichukulia hivyo. So I'm just curious to know what other things ambao wanakuja new investors kwenu au kwako wanakuja kuongea na wewe, they have really unrealistic expectations. Tabit okay, na chini ueleze sikia sio hivyo. And how do you deal with those?
Okay, so one unrealistic expectation. Today is Wednesday. I want to buy a stock on Wednesday and become a billionaire myself.
I want to see my returns very soon.
That is unrealistic. That is unrealistic. And ukiwa na hiyo mentality, you're going to lose a lot more money before you start seeing money. Because you're just going to try and do everything.
Yeah.
Mtu anakuja anakuambia, listen, there's an opportunity here to make 20% a month. You tell them, take my money. Just think about it in your brain. Ni mtu gani ambaye anaweza kafanya biashara ambayo ni legal, that can give you enough profit for you to set aside 20% aumpe mtu mwingine? We know what kind of business is that? So sometimes people fall victims into scams kwa sababu ya hizo expectations ambazo ni unrealistic. Like, I want to become rich very quickly. So if somebody presents you with an opportunity, you don't have any arguments against it. Because tayari kwenye kichwa chako una bias tayari. You just want to become rich. So you don't even take time to be able to have reasoning. Kwamba, hichi kitu ambacho ananiambia ni uhalisia. So let me just give you a quick fact. Nilikuwa naangalia juzi statistics za Marekani ambayo inatolewa na FTC. FTC is a Federal Trade Commission ambayo inasimamia biashara, investment and all of this. So you're saying that Americans that have lost money due to fraudulent investment schemes, the value of that has risen to $5.4 billion in 2024.
In 1 year.
Yeah, in 2024. So this is 20% up compared to 2023. Umeona? Hujiulizi kwa nini mara nyingi kuna Ponzi schemes zinakuja, people lose money, they cry, but then they come other Ponzi schemes, people lose money, they cry, they forget. So it's the same cycle. Because people have unrealistic expectations. However, mimi I don't want to fault people. Sio watu tu, lakini ni issue information. Kwa sababu gani, kama ungekuwa unauelewa wa market returns ambazo zinatokana maybe kwenye kuwekeza kwenye stocks returns ambazo zinapatikana maybe kwenye kuwekeza kwenye fixed income securities kama bonds, returns ambazo zinapatikana kwenye kuinvest kwenye mutual funds, collective investment schemes na kadhalika, au real estate, it's going to be very easy for you to identify something that is fraudulent. So I give this example a lot. So how do you tell a difference between a genuine note and a fake note? Kwa hapa una note ya shilingi 10,000. Hapa una note ya shilingi 10,000 ambayo ni fake. Are you going to spend so much time looking at the fake ili uweze kujua, au uta spend so much time looking at the genuine one ili hata kama fake ikija unaweza kuispot? So what you do is you'd rather spend so much time focusing on the real stuff, on the real investments, on the genuine investments. Sasa mtu akija na idea ambayo sio, unajua kabisa hamna kitu.
It makes sense, yeah.
It
makes sense,
like,
yeah.
ukiwa unaangalia tu maponzi scheme, unafanya research za fraudulent schemes, right? Kila siku mtu anakuja na new ideas za kupiga watu hela. Sasa hivi kuna hii kitu wanaita deep fake, right? Someone might use a very realistic video of you talking, akawatumia watu kwenye WhatsApp kwamba labda I'm held captive, I need ransom, naomba hela fulani ili waniachie. Wanakuambia tuma kwenye account hii, wakati wewe you have no idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Umetumia tu your resemblance to do that. So if you focus much on fake and fraudulent schemes, there are new schemes that are going to pop up every day. Sasa focus on the genuine investment, kiasi kwamba hata kama fake zikija, you can easily identify, sababu unajua kabisa kiwalisia
the fundamentals are real, ziko hivi na hii hapa ipo hivi. Hapo umetoka kuongelea swala lazima la kwamba most of the people unakuta kama you don't have much information, alafu you just want the quick money, una jump to every opportunity that comes to you. I'd like to know kwenye investment. Sasa nikawa leo nimesikia information from CRDB, nikataka kuinvest. Leo kesho nikasikia za Twiga, nikataka kuinvest. Kesho rafiki yangu akaniambia mpata faida fulani. Would you advise someone could diversify hivyo au what stick maybe let's say in one industry kama ni banking au kama ni manufacturer? What's your advice on all from your experience?
I mean, unajua generally it's advised that you spread your risk, right? Instead of concentrating in one area, when something happens, when something wrongs happen in that area, you're prone to losing a lot more compared if you diversified. Kwa mfano, like if you have capital and you want to allocate hii capital kwenye investment, we recommend most of the times ujaribu kufanya diversification, kwamba at least kama ni kwenye stocks, diversify kwenye sector tofauti. Weka kwenye banking, weka kwenye telecom, weka kwenye utilities, weka kwenye aviation. Lakini ukika yote kwenye banking sector, inaweza katokea risk ambayo iko only sector specific to the banking sector, ambayo ikaathiri kiasi kwamba ukaluza hata value investment. Lakini kama ungekuwa umediversify, maybe umeweka labda 60% huku 40% kwingine, so losses za huku zinakuwa offset by the gains za sehemu nyingine. Lakini not only specifically diversification to equities, lakini you can even decide to diversify through asset classes. Maybe you say you put 70% of your investments in equities, alafu 30% unaweka labda kwenye bonds. We know bonds kwamba ni fixed income securities, that they don't really fluctuate in value as much as shares. Kwa hiyo kama kuna any fluctuations in value huku, unajua kwamba you're safe, kwamba huku bado bonds zinaendelea kulipa coupon, and you sort of have like an armor, in terms of your portfolio. So it's very recommendable for people when they're doing investments to diversify, just so ujaribu ku minimize risk too much concentration on one area.
One of our episodes before tulikuwa na a financial educator, nikamuuliza, unajua when we speak about investing 100 million, that's when you see kwamba getting 15% makes sense a year. Ila kuna hawa ambao yeye anataka kuinvest 500,000 au kama hivyo bonds nyingi unakuta minimum ni milioni, then 15% for 1 million ni 1,500,000 kwa mwaka. It might not make something, what advice do you have for people ambao now perform in that class?
My advice is always the same. There's a big difference kati ya mtu anayefanya na mtu ambaye afanya. Kwa mfano, kuna mtu labda analipa 500,000 kwa mwezi. Huyu mtu anayelipa 500,000 kwa mwezi anaweza kadecide kutokusave kabisa, akaitumia yote. However, anaweza kamua, you know what, in my 500,000, let me save 20%. Let me save 100,000 every month. Hiyo 100,000, let me invest it somewhere ambayo inanilipa 13% na ina compound every year. So this guy ambao anafanya hivyo kwamba kila mwezi anawekeza laki moja kwa baada ya mwaka mmoja amekuwa amewekeza significant amount ambayo ina compound 13% every year. So in 15 years this person would have 46 million. 46 million, you understand?
Yeah.
Compared to a person ambaye analipwa laki tano na hajafanya any sort of investment, by 15 years ana zero.
Yeah.
You understand? So whether you have a lot of money or whether you have little money, you need to start doing any form of investment. Just don't let your money be idle. Do any form of investment, because sasa uzuri sasa hivi pia ukiniambia kwamba bonds minimum ni 1 million, there mutual funds, collect investment schemes, ZanSecurities we have Timiza fund. It gives a benchmark return of 13%, and we encourage people to actually invest. And the fund has grown very, very huge. Kwa hiyo, in fact, right now, a lot of investors are using easy collective investment schemes as a saving account, right? Amelipwa mshahara, tuna recommend pia, unajua there's a certain splits that you need to do when you're getting paid. Unajua there's maybe 50% for your normal expenses, maybe 30% unaweza kuka in terms of savings, 20% ni kwenye investment. Sasa kwenye hiyo ile ambayo unalipa laki tano, 20% unaitupia tu kwenye mutual fund. Unaweka kwenye Timiza fund, inakuwa ina compound. By 15 years, hiyo laki moja ambayo unaicontribute kila mwezi, it's already 41 million. Yeah? So regardless of the amount that you have, what you need to do is just to start doing it now, because it's going to make a difference between now and 15 years.
I mean, we should start thinking long term and not just like what's happening sasa hivi.
Yani unajua our thinking horizon is very short.
Very short.
Yani tunafikiria in a month period. Kwamba mshahara naitumia yote. Nasubiri
nitakuja nyingine tena. We don't think kwamba naweza tukafukuzwa hii kazi after a while au nahitaji kugrow.
Of course.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think we need to have a thinking horizon that is beyond 1 month. It should be at least 5 years, 10 years.
Hey, mambo vipi? I hope una enjoy episode hii. Episode hii bana imedhaminiwa na ZanSecurities. Hawa ni mawakala wawekezaji kwenye soko la hisa la Dar es Salaam, walioidhinishwa na mamlaka ya masoko ya mitaji na dhamana, wanaofahamika kama CMSA, ili kuweza kutoa huduma za uwekezaji kwa watu wanaotaka kushiriki kwenye masoko haya ya dhamana na mitaji. Hivyo basi, kama wewe mwenyewe ungependa kuanza kuwekeza kwenye hisa au hati fungani ila bahati mbaya hujui pa kuanzia, unaweza ukawacheck ZanSecurities nao wakakupa mwongozo wa namna gani kuwekeza kulingana na malengo yako wewe mwenyewe. Na consultation ofisini kwao ni bure kabisa. Ila pia ZanSecurities wanafanya usimamizi wa uwekezaji unaofahamika kama fund management kupitia mfuko wao wa uwekezaji wa pamoja unaoitwa Timiza Fund. Mfuko huu wa Timiza Fund unakuruhusu wewe kuanza kuwekeza kwa kuanzia shilingi 10,000 tu na kuendelea. Unaweza ukawatembelea ofisini kwao au ukadownload application yao inayopatikana Play Store pamoja na App Store inayofahamika kama Zan Invest. Ukiingia humo ndani unaweza ukapata information zote zinazokusaidia wewe kuanza kujifunza au kufahamu namna ya kuwekeza kwenye mifuko ya uwekezaji wa pamoja, kwenye hisa ama hati fungani za serikali na za makampuni binafsi. Tuendelee na episode.
So, events kama hizi COVID, Ukraine war, I'm pretty sure it affects the market. How hard or how bad did it affect market here, Tanzania specifically?
Yeah, when you look at the economy, we're not living in an island. Tanzania is not living in an island.
Yeah.
Tanzania, we are very well connected with other countries. Other countries use our ports. People travel to other countries. People from other countries come to Tanzania for tourism. Sasa kama nchi na lockdown, what do you think is going to happen? So, businesses that depend on sectors such as tourism, zitaathirika. Sasa, when you look at that chain reaction, right? Maybe labda COVID imekuja, countries in lockdown, tourists hawaji Tanzania. Tourism sector, what's going to happen? Tour operators now, biashara itakuwa iko down. Kama ikiwa down, ina maana kama they are not going to be able to pay or staff maybe 20 people as how they used to before. Maybe want to retrench 50% of the workforce. Yeah. If they retrench the workforce, what's going to happen to people ambao they used to spend 200,000 a month to buy groceries? Watanunua 100,000 badala ya 200,000. What's going to happen kwa hiyo supermarket ambayo imemzoea huyu mtu kulipia 200,000 kila mwezi kununua groceries? Now pia stock itakuwa itembei. It affects everywhere. So maybe just to give an example as far as the stock market is concerned, there are companies kama Swissport. Swissport, wow, they do ground handling services na cargo services. So basically they service the aviation industry, right? So anything was to happen to the aviation industry, wao wenyewe wataathirika. But even if you see in the finances around that period, where they got a loss. Obviously, the loss was not really that surprising kwa sababu tu ya mazingira tu ya biashara, but they've since recovered since then. In fact, juzi tu wametoa gawio. They just declared a dividend, which is a very, very high dividend. So just to reiterate, Tanzania is not really an island. Yeah. I mean, we're very much connected to the globe. And biashara nyingi zinaathirika na mambo ya kiuchumi tofauti. Sasa ukija kwenye mambo ya Ukraine, I think when you look at the data, hata ya bei ya mafuta tu, kwenye kipindi cha 2022 mpaka 2024, there was a huge spike in pricing. Yeah, mpaka watu wakaanza kushangaa, what is going on? Is this specific to Tanzania? But no, this is things that are related globally. Unajua, okay, kama there are sanctions that are being imposed to Russia, kuto kuuza mafuta, unajua hata supply ya mafuta duniani. Kama supply ya mafuta duniani ikipungua and your buying capacity is still the same, ina maana kwamba the prices are always going to go up. Yeah, and then because we import a lot, we're an importing country, ina maana kwamba vitu vingi ambavyo tunaviimport pia bei zitapanda. Yeah, and then you need to understand that energy or fuel is a key component kwenye mambo ya manufacturing, mambo ya transportation. Kwa hiyo kama wewe ulikuwa unazoea kuchukua mchele Mbeya na Kenta, hiyo Kenta inatumia mafuta. Kama price ya mafuta imepanda juu, ina maana kwamba hata operation costs zitapanda juu. Sasa na yule mfanyabiashara, what is he going to do? He's going to price it kwenye huo mchele. Everything prices zitapanda juu. So that is something that we call is like imported inflation. Yeah, so it's imported inflation because unakuta sasa mafuta yanaingizwa, mafuta yanatumika kila sehemu. Sasa na matumizi ya mafuta kila sehemu yanaathiri hata bidhaa hizo ambazo zinasafirishwa na matumizi mengine. You understand?
Yeah. I think that's something about it can be an episode of itself.
Let me tell you, there is so much to talk about in relation to mambo ya hizi, mambo ya Ukraine, geopolitics, mambo ya central bank decisions. Kwa sababu kama bei ya vitu vinapanda juu, what is going to happen? Obviously, that is inflation. Kama inflation inapanda juu, it is wanasema kwamba inflation is very cancerous to the economy. Yani ni kama cancer.
Ni kama cancer. Naanza kidogo.
Inapanda juu, alafu sasa ikipanda juu ina erode purchasing power ya mtu. Kwa sababu kama inflation, unajua kuna nchi zingine inflation is around 20%. Yeah, I think Nigeria, I think when you look at the numbers, I think it's around 20%. Tanzania is around 3.2. Numbers nadhani za much.
Very low compared to 20. Very low.
Yani 20 ni kwamba ulikuwa unanunua mkate 4,000 mwaka jana, sasa hivi ukiangalia bei ya mkate is close to like 5,000 huko. Kwa hiyo kama kuna hizo risks za inflation, the central bank obviously kwa sababu ana mandate ya ku-stabilize prices in the way of reducing inflation, atajaribu kuicombat. Ndio maana utaangalia kwenye kipindi cha 2022 mpaka 2024, a lot of central banks stepped in by increasing interest rates. Sasa waki-increase these interest rates, manake ni kwamba they're trying to discourage spending. They want to cut purchasing power to make money expensive because the price of money is interest rate. So if they adjust interest rate upwards, ina maana hata wewe ambao ulikuwa una uwezo wa kuborrow, utapunguza to the amount that you're borrowing. Wewe ambao you used to buy stocks, now utapunguza kwa sababu money is much more expensive now. Yeah, so a lot of central banks stepped in, wakapandisha interest rates just to sort of maintain or bring down inflation chini kidogo. But again, as you said, that is a conversation for one whole episode.
Facts.
Yes.
I mean, nimekuuliza hivyo kwa sababu I wanted to know like what mistakes do people make ikitokea events kama hizo kwenye the stock markets and all that.
Yes, so unajua people sometimes are very emotional in terms of decision making. Mimi nakumbuka in 2021, me and my group of friends, we decided to buy shares in NMB. Kipindi kile price was around 2,340. Tukasema tukanunua, and then baada ya kununua tu, unajua mimi ndo ambao niliwashauri wafanye. Baada ya kununua bei ikaanza kushuka. Wewe ilishuka mpaka ngapi? Mpaka 1,700.
2,300 mpaka 1,700. Wana kuangalia wana jamaa huyu.
My friends look at me like, guy, what is going on? We're supposed to depend on you. You're the financial expert. What is going on?
Natambie tutoke au.
You can guys just relax. This is just a blip kidogo, lakini things are good. The company is stable. Fundamentals are strong. The economy is good. So you never know what is driving prices to go down. But if you make decisions based on those emotions, unakuta mtu anauza
Yeah.
anakaa, lakini trust me, if I tell you the price of NMB right now is 6,300, you're not going to be
That's a lot. That's a huge.
it's a huge gain. It's a huge gain. Kwa hiyo sometimes you just need to look at the market at very fundamental lenses to avoid making decisions ambazo they're going to be very costly. Yeah, so if you have black swan events, tunapenda kuziita kama COVID, you cannot predict COVID. Hamna mtu 5 years before COVID angeweza kusema bwana in 2020 kutatokea coronavirus from Wuhan in China itakuja kuathiri dunia nzima. You cannot predict that. It happens, it affects the world, but the world recovers after that. So the people ambao maybe they sold kipindi kile, now they regret, why did we sell? We should have just held our shares. So what my recommendation for people is to analyze companies very fundamentally, kwa sababu unaweza ukaona prices zinashuka, lakini ni kwa sababu tu mtu anahitaji hela, anataka kufinance kitu fulani, kwa hiyo anauza kwa bei ya chini, ina drop market,
aingize nyingine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Affect market, lakini sio kwamba the biashara au kampuni specific is doing fundamentally wrong. No, it's far from that. So it's very important as an investor. Jamani, nilisema kwamba you need to know why you're buying and you need to know what you're buying. Because if you're selling under emotions, it means that you don't know why you bought that. You didn't know what you're buying in the first place. So you need to really educate yourself to a degree ambapo you can actually explain to someone what this business does. Kwa sababu when you buy a stock unanunua biashara. Kwa hiyo unabidi muelezee kabisa kwamba biashara inafanya hivi, margins zake ziko hivi, na profit yake imekuwa 3 years kama hivyo. So hata outlook ya market iko hivyo.
So when you speak about the fundamental things that you need to look, ndo unaongelea kama hizo financial reports.
Of course. So fundamentals hizo ndo key attributes ya biashara, kwamba tunaangalia labda mauzo, costs za biashara, margin zake, sector inayo operate, what is the competitive landscape, what is the growth and profitability, what is the earning per share, what is the dividend payout ratio, what is dividend per share. Unajua, all of these metrics that if you put them together, it will give you a very logical outlook for how that company is going to be trading maybe in the next 2 to 3 years. Inakupa tu financial health ya kampuni yote. So unaponunua hisa bila kuanalyze the company, you're basically swimming in an ocean without any destination, right? So you need to actually educate yourself. Take that effort, educate yourself on why you're buying it and what are you buying. Yes.
So I would just like to, this is like a follow-up kwenye. So kipindi cha COVID, would you advise someone kipindi kile mtu angekuwa ananunua stocks nyingi?
I mean, lakini sasa unabidi uangalie ni kampuni gani.
Kampuni gani unanunulia, kama would you be able to recover?
For example, kama unanunua stock ya kampuni ambayo inafanya tourism, you never know kwamba will this company recover? It might go down, it might not go back up. Yes, some people have this saying of, I want to buy at the bottom. So my buy at the bottom kabakia bottom.
Kabaki flat.
Ikabaki flat na sirudi juu.
So kipindi kile, what were you guys advising people invest kwenye nini?
So during that period we were advising people to buy stocks that are more defensive and are more resilient to hizi shocks. Unajua kuna biashara zingine ambazo zinafanyika au sekta ambazo zinatoa huduma ambazo they're very resilient. Kwa mfano utilities sector. Maybe umenunua shares za kampuni ambayo inafanya generation ya electricity. People are always going to buy electricity. Right? Au labda kwenye mambo ya telecom, people are always going to talk on the phone. Lakini sasa ukinunua sector specific stocks ambazo they're very much prone to hizi shocks, maybe kama real estate au labda umenunua shares kwenye upande kama nimeongelea tourism, sasa they're a little bit risky. So at that point tulikuwa na shauri allocation towards more defensive stocks ambazo ziko more resilient to hizo shocks ambazo zinatokea maybe kwenye upande wa kwenye kipindi cha recession au kwenye kipindi ambapo tunaona kuna slump ya economic activities. Yes.
Kwenye stocks hapa, I would like to know, am I able to take loans from banks kupitia my stock certificates?
That is a very, very good question. So again, when you look at stocks or securities in general, tukiangalia securities ndo hizi stocks, bonds, mutual funds na kadhalika. Hizi zote ni assets. Hizi zote ukinunua, you basically get a title deed for buying them. These are your shares under your name. You can sell them at any time. So as a result, they have value. So if they have value, any institution anaweza akakupa a loan against that value, kwamba in the event that you default they can realize that value. So there are different financial institutions in Tanzania ambao they give out loans, lakini I think each institution in a specific terms and conditions as to like what is the loan to value ratio. Kwa mfano labda you have stocks worth 100 million. When you go to a financial institution, they're not going to give you 100 million on that. They're going to give you maybe 50%
of that, yeah.
Then ukidefault, wanaweza wakarealize hata hiyo 50 au hata 60 au hata 70. Just so that they can be covered kwenye upande wa risk na liquidation risks, yeah.
I don't know if you have the experience, ila I want to know kwamba wanaangalia hiyo ratio au pia wanaangalia na returns zako ambazo unapata from that stock, kujua kama kweli jamaa anaweza kuwa anaweza kulipa hiyo deni yake kupitia hizo stocks zake.
Yeah, so they do wanafanya evaluation ya value ya hizo stocks, kwa sababu that is one thing ambayo itawa guide kwamba utafanya evaluation, what is the value and what are the liquidity risk. Kwa mfano kama ukidefault, how easy it is for the bank to liquidate that security, whether kama ni bond au kama ni shares. Yeah, so those are two things ambazo zitawa guide in terms of decision making, kwa sababu they're not going to look at your returns. Your returns, those are historical information. They're going to look at the value of that asset. Okay. So if I'm giving you 100 million, na wewe umenipa asset ya milioni 200, ukidefault hiyo milioni 100, je, nitaweza kurealize 100 million from your 200 million property or 200 million shares or 200 million bonds? So those are things ambazo they really pay attention to. Yeah, and there are many financial institutions that offer that. Kwa sababu as an investor, you should have the flexibility of being able to borrow against your asset, because at any given time umepata shida hela na hutaki kuliquidate your assets. So you can even get a loan against your assets. It's good, and it's something that has been done very, very frequent. Yeah.
Tumeongelea the market ya bongo, Tanzania specifically. I would also like to know, mimi kama Tanzania naweza nika invest outside the borders kwenye stock market za nchi zingine, and what's the limit ambazo nazo?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. Unajua, as per the foreign exchange regulations 2022, a Tanzanian resident can invest within East African community countries and the SADC countries, Southern African Development Community countries. So you're only eligible or only allowed to invest within capital markets ya hizo nchi. The reason why they do that ni kwa sababu obviously the government is trying to restrict capital flight kwenda nje. Kasa kama mitaji inatoka nje, ina maana kwamba hata huku kutakuwa na hela ya kutosha kufanya biashara. Kwa hiyo sasa they try, okay, wamefungua kidogo, alianza na EAC, then 2022 wakafungua mpaka SADC. Kwa ukitaka kwenda kununua shares kwenye Stock Exchange of Mauritius, ukitaka kununua shares kwenye Johannesburg Stock Exchange, you're eligible, you're allowed to do that. Yeah, so it's within that context, a Tanzanian is allowed to do so. And the opposite is also true for people on that side. They're able to come and buy here in Tanzania.
Kwani inbound kuna limits kwamba ukiwa labda tuseme from this country you can't buy shares in Tanzania?
Inbound, there's no limitation. Yeah. There's no limitation. Of course, lakini I do believe that there are other countries ambazo zimekuwa blacklisted. Lakini zimekuwa blacklisted for one reason or another. Lakini as it is, a lot of residents of other countries are allowed to come and buy kwenye stock exchange. Lakini kwenye government securities kama treasury bonds, there's a certain limit. It's only allowed mpaka SADC. Lakini kwenye shares, huo uwanja ni mkubwa zaidi.
Okay, umetupa reason kwa nini kuna limits from the government's perspective or the economy perspective. Yes. But I would also want to know from the investor's perspective, which one is more profitable, kuinvest ndani au kwenda SADC kuna EAC?
Yeah, so ukiangalia ndio maana when we started having this conversation, I told you that Tanzania has been very resilient towards shocks that has been happening in the past 5 years. As a result, unakuta key sectors zimeboom. Banking imeboom, unakuta mining is doing good. The capital market is also doing good. The capital market ikifanya vizuri, ina maana kwamba hata makampuni ambayo yako ndani yanafanya vizuri zaidi. So ukicompare na Kenya or South Africa, Tanzanian capital market has done a phenomenal job. Very good job in terms of returning high returns to investors. So as an investor, utajiuliza, I can get 30% here investing on one stock. Why would I go risk my money in another country ambao they're very unstable and they're not resilient as much as Tanzania is resilient? I just spoke about kuna nchi zingine inflation is 20%. We are on 3.2. Umeona sasa kuna hiyo resilience. Sasa watu wengi tunakuwa tunashauri bana, bakini Tanzania, opportunities ziko nyingi, government bond rates are very high, stock market returns are also high. So I think this is the right time for people who want to invest. I even mentioned there are companies come to the cement, they've already returned around 30%
in 5 months.
in 5 months. Why would you want to go to another country?
Okay.
Unatafuta nini huko?
Yeah.
Huko kuna mambo ya tariffs nini, which is really affecting that side of the world. And there's lots of volatility and there's a lot of unpredictability. When you as an investor, you want to be in a market ambayo you can predict what's going to happen. Lakini sasa kama vitu vinaendelea huko, you don't know what's going to happen in 1 week. You know, it creates a lot of uncertainty for investors. So we recommend and we tell a lot of people, as far as investing is concerned, stick to the capital markets in Tanzania, because as far as we see, the market is doing great. Outlook is also positive. The economy is also very much growing. So at the GDP expectations are very, very high for this year. Yeah, GDP growth I think around 5.8% this year. So it's very, very good.
Na mimi wanakuja watu kwenu like I want to invest in stock market but I don't know where to start. What are the few steps that you guys advise kwamba sikia? So if you want to start, anza hapa na hapa. Alafu ndo uingize mtaji wako kwenye the stock market.
Yeah, so again, unajua ni kama vile you want to learn how to drive a car. Huwezi kuingia ukawasha ukaenda. You need to understand how the car works. Kwa hiyo ni lazima you familiarize yourself with everything related to the stock market. What is the stock market? What constitutes the stock market? What are these stocks that everybody keeps referring to? How do prices change? So ukiwa na zile basic understanding, now you can take that leap. Lakini haishi hapo. Unabidi ujeducate pia vile vitu ambavyo unavyovinunua. Like I'm buying stocks, I'm buying companies, like what does this business do? So those are the preliminary things. Lakini sasa ukiniambia kwenye upande sasa wa kwanza kufanya, cha kwanza you need to have like an investment account. So we term that as a CDS account. Unabidi uwe na CDS account, which nowadays because of technology, you can do that at your fingertips. So you just go to the App Store or Play Store, you download DSC Hisa Kiganjani or mobile trading platform, or you can even download our application Zan Invest, because we also integrated to the DSC. Once you've done that, unafungua tu account ya investment. You open the investment account, you are able now to buy and sell. Lakini before you buy and sell, it's important to speak to an expert. Akuelekeze namna ya kufanya hivi. Akuelekeze namna ya kuchagua kampuni nzuri ya kuanza kufanya uwekezaji. Kuna kampuni zingine sio nzuri za kwanza.
Zinakupa bad experience.
Yes, zinakupa bad experience, alafu hutotaka tena.
Tuona kila kitu ni uongo.
Yaani unaona kwamba I say, yaani mambo ya kuinvest kwenye stocks ni hamna kitu. Yes, it's true. It's happened so many times. There are people ambao unfortunately, unajua 90% of the decisions that many people make is a result of maybe close friends or close relatives. Jamaa amekuita kwamba bana, Carlton, ina mchongo huu, hebu naomba nikushirikishe. 1, 2, 3. You're more inclined to say yes without seeking a second opinion from an expert. Kwa sasa unakuta kwa sababu ya hiyo watu wengi wananunua vitu ambavyo hawakutaka kuvinunua. Kwa sababu gani? Alifuata tu mkumbo. Shangazi alikuja aliniambia bana amenunua share ya hii kampuni, mjomba alikuja, kaka alikuja, ni mimi nikanunua tu. So maybe they assumed hao watakuwa wanajua wanachokifanya. Kwa hiyo na wewe sasa unajishia kununua pia. So it's very important to seek guidance ya experts ambao wapo kwenye financial market, wakuguide namna gani ya kuanza kufanya uwekezaji. Lakini sio tu namna gani ya kuanza, lakini namna gani ya kufanya uwekezaji bora kupitia makampuni ambayo they are healthy, prospects are good, and you can actually get those benefits of investing, as I mentioned, through price appreciation and through dividend payments. So those are things that are very, very important as an early investor to always keep in mind. And yani to stop listening to the noises of the crowd.
There.
Yes.
I'd like to know, kwenye application ya DSC, can I buy mutual funds?
Oh, so unfortunately, DSC application, what you can only buy at the moment is stocks. However, I pointed out that we as ZanSecurities, we have an application about not only can you buy DSC shares, but you can also buy Timiza fund units. So ukiingia tu pale, you have an option. You can either buy Timiza fund or you can either buy DSC shares. You have that flexibility all within one application.
So it's better off to have the Zan.
It's better off to have the Zan Invest application ambayo inakusaidia kwa sababu it's integrated to the exchange, lakini pia inakupa flexibility to invest in mutual fund if you want to.
And I also get like expert or at least support from the application.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Support is there, and our people are very much responsive. You, anytime you want to call, you want to message, pale kwenye application, they give you a response on how to go about anything related to investment. So, because what we are prioritizing now, and this has been our strategy for the coming 5 years, is to try as much as we can to promote investment knowledge and to give out so much information related to investment. Kwa sababu if we give out information, ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to have more people coming into the market.
Yeah.
When more people coming into the market, it's not going to be beneficial to only me, ZanSecurities. It's also going to be beneficial to other people in the market. Kwa sababu players wanaongezeka.
Hata the
Sasa,
capital inaozunguka inaongezeka.
Players wakiongezeka, mitaji nayo inakuwa ni mingi. Mitaji ikiwa ni mingi, inatafuta sehemu ya kwenda. Ultimately, hizi product ambazo tunazo zitaonekana ni chache. We are going to be forced to bring new products into the market, which collectively, it makes the capital market develop. So we encourage information sharing, and we have a very deep research hub in our office kwamba we have databases za miaka mingi sana. If you want to know price ya kampuni fulani in 2006, we have the ability of sharing those research with you. And again, because kitu ambacho ni muhimu kumbuka ni kwamba ni fundamentals. Sasa huwezi ukanunua kitu wakati hauna historia ya hicho kitu. You need to know where the business came from, where it's going. So we also have reports and analysis that we do ambayo inatoa historical information ya baadhi ya makampuni ambayo yako listed, ambayo yanakupa hata outlook ya where do you see them in the coming 3 to 4 years. So that is very, very important.
And so I can get all that sio kwa kuja ofisini kwenu just by letting you guys know mnanitumia kwenye email au kwenye whatever.
Absolutely.
I mean, a few days ago, sijui ni kwa nani, maybe you, maybe someone else, but niliambiwa there's 2 different types of stocks kwenye the capital market. Kuna hizi ambazo ndo kama hizo uzasema kuna CRDB and all that, ni kampuni zilizo mature, na kuna zingine ambazo ni hizi upcoming. I don't know if it's that true, ila ndo information nilizopata. Kuna kitu kama hicho kwanza?
I mean, you're right. Sasa, just to give you context, soko lote ni soko kubwa.
Yeah.
It's a big market. 28 companies. Out of the 28, 6 are cross-listed. Cross-listed inaona kwamba zina exist kwenye exchange zaidi ya moja.
Yeah.
So you talk about KCB, National Media Group, Jubilee Holdings, East Africa Breweries, Uchumi Supermarket, Kenya Airways, these are cross-listed companies. Lakini zile 22 ndo zile local companies. Sasa kwenye local companies kuna CRDB, NMB, Trigger Cement, Tanga Cement, Swissport na kadhalika. Sasa ili kuweza kulist kwenye stock exchange, tunasema kwamba kuna segment mbili. Kuna main investment market na kuna enterprise growth market. So this is just not a unique case for Tanzania. Hata Uingereza wanayo alternative investment market, ambao ni market kwa ajili ya makampuni madogo, ambao hata sheria za wao kuweza kulist, they're very lenient. They allow them because they give them accessibility to capital. Kwa hata how investors ambao wana invest, they know the risk that they're taking. So kwa Tanzania ndo kuna hiyo main investment market, alafu kuna enterprise growth market. So the enterprise growth market was made to allow small, medium enterprises, small startups to be able to join at very flexible rules. Sababu ukiangalia kwenye main investment market, wanakuambia minimum paid up share capital ya kampuni ambayo nataka kulist iwe at least 1 billion. Yeah? Lakini huku iwe milioni 200. Lakini pia kwenye main investment market, kampuni lazima iwe imeexist for more than, iwe na track record ya zaidi ya miaka 3. Na katika hiyo miaka 3 lazima iwe imeregister profit 2 out of those 3 years. So they're a little bit strict. Obviously, why they're a little bit strict ni kwa sababu as an exchange, their responsibility pia is to create an environment ambao investors are protected. Utaki kampuni ije uwekeze leo baada ya miezi 2 iende bust. Yeah? So the screening is very tight. Ndio maana sasa regulations are very tight. Rules are very tight. All in all, to make sure that in the investors that are buying these shares, their rights are protected, their investments are protected. So ndio maana kwenye main investment hizi ni kwa ajili ya yale makampuni makubwa, reputable. But for the EGM, ni kwa ajili ya yale makampuni madogo. So even the investors that are buying the stocks or the shares of those companies, they understand the risks that they're taking because ni makampuni madogo. Hata track record nayo inaweza kama ni ndogo. Hata profitability inaweza isiwepo. Historical profitability inaweza isiwepo. So yeah, those are segments ambazo zina exist kwenye market. to be able to create a conducive environment for companies to come and list.
And
Yeah.
if you want to be listed kwenye the main, do you have to go through that, then you go IPO, then here, like or you can just go moja kwa moja kwenye the main?
Okay, so if you want to list, number one, lazima utafute mshauri au advisor. So you need to have a licensed dealing member kama ZanSecurities, ambao na leseni investment advisory au transaction advisor kwenye huo mchakato wote, ambao it includes kuandaa kitu tunaita prospectus. Prospectus is basically the information about that company that is about to be listed. So that document is going to be reviewed by the stock exchange, by the Capital Markets and Securities Authority. So once all approval are received or are given, then the company inafanya roadshow. Roadshow ina maana kwamba you say Carlton Limited wants to raise 10 billion, right? How do you get guarantee of you're going to raise 10 billion, right? Si lazima marketing.
Yeah, marketing.
Ko tutaenda pamoja na ZanSecurities ambao ndo lead advisor, tutaenda tutafanya roadshow. Tunafanya roadshow, tunatembelea mabanks, insurance, pension funds, and any other prospective investor, so we can get commitments from them to actually invest in the company. So once that is done, commitment levels tumezipata, tumefikia 100% subscription, tunamaliza sasa hiyo IPO, tunarudi kwa regulator, and then baada hapo tunafanya listing. Ikishakuwa listed, sasa baada hapo people now have the ability to buy and sell. Wale ambao wamenunua kipindi cha IPO, maybe wamekaa nazo labda miezi miwili, now they might make a decision, you know what, I want to exit and realize the value of my investment. Okay. Yes, given maybe the market price is higher compared to when I bought before.
So I hope you guys learned a lot kuhusiana na stocks. On the next episode with Isaac tutaongelea kuhusiana na Timiza fund ambao ni mutual fund from ZanSecurities, and hopefully you'll get to learn and know how to invest in mutual funds as well.